Hello and welcome back to another episode of Abbey the Podcast Lady. Today we are getting into some FAQs that I get quite often about starting a podcast. And I figured, you know what? I'm getting these questions on a repeated loop, so why not just make an episode about it and then I can direct people right there. So we are going to get into frequently asked questions for getting started with podcasting. Let's do it. Number one is, how do I know if I'm ready to start a podcast? This is a question that I have gotten quite a few times, and it usually happens in the form of someone going, hey, we should get coffee and just get caught up on life. And then this question gets dropped. I'm like, okay, this has turned into a consulting call. But it's okay because, like I've said in episodes past, I like being helpful. I like helping people start their podcast and find their voice and share their stories. So how do I know if I'm ready to start a podcast? One, is this something that you think you need to do just because a lot of people are podcasting right now? I'm not going to say everyone is podcasting because not everyone. It might feel like everyone, but it is a very popular thing to do because it's a great way to go deeper with your audience. I would say also ask yourself, do I have an audience I'm trying to reach? Because if you say, well, I'm trying to reach everyone, that means you're also trying to reach no one. Like this show, I'm talking to people who want to start a podcast, want to get going with the podcasting industry, have questions about the podcasting industry. If you have an audience that is craving information from you in some way, shape, or form, I would say that is how you know you're ready to start a podcast. There's there's definitely other things you need to take into consideration, but I think that's the biggest one is, do you know there is an audience you're trying to reach? Start searching your soul and your environment for those sort of answers. Along those lines, another question I get asked is, do I need a big audience before I launch a podcast? And to that, my answer is, it's helpful, but no, you do not need a large audience to start a podcast. I started this show with not a very large audience. I mean, I have a pretty solid social media following. 10,000-ish on TikTok, but my other platforms really aren't that large. And I've still seen growth and success and clients come from having this podcast. So I would say you don't need a large audience to start your show. Now, if you have a large audience, you are going to see a higher spike in downloads on those initial episodes that you put out. And if you don't, you're probably going to be sitting there going, the only people listening to this are me and my mom. And both are fine options. Podcasting is a long game either way. That flash in the pan right when you start a show because your audience is like, oh, this is new and exciting and I love following this person. That's fun and it can keep your momentum going. But just know that it's all about long-term showing up week after week, having that repeatable process that you can do on the back end to make sure content goes out consistently. That's what's really going to be helpful in the long run. Another question I get asked is, what should I talk about on my podcast? If you are asking yourself that, you might not be ready to start your show. And that's not to be mean or rude or anything, but you do need to have a good idea of what you want to say to the audience you're trying to cater to. So if you sit down with your phone and you bought the DJI mic minis and you clip it to your shirt and you just sit there and you go, now what? You're probably not ready to start a podcast, but that doesn't mean you can't be ready to start a podcast. There's this wonderful thing called ChatGPT. And you might as well use it because it is a tool. And you can type into ChatGPT, hey, I want to talk to X, Y, and Z type of person, and I want to start a podcast. Give me 4 ideas of what I can talk about, or give me 20 ideas of what I can talk about, and just have it generate some ideas for you. I wouldn't say have it generate everything for you because that defeats the purpose of sharing the knowledge that's inside of your brain, but it can help you be a brainstorm partner and come up with some ideas of what you can say on your show. Ooh, this is a good one. Should my podcast support my business or can it just be for fun? You can do a podcast on anything, and there are no rules to this platform. I think that's what makes it so exciting is that, yeah, you can have a podcast that supports your business like this one does. It purely supports my marketing efforts for Abbey Graves Productions and Abbey the Podcast Lady, and it helps me share my knowledge. But I also had a for funsies podcast. It was called The Small Town Tourist, and it started purely as just something fun to do, to get me out of the house, to connect with people in my community, to share some fun stories of things that I found interesting. You can have a podcast for fun. And honestly, I like to listen to podcasts for fun. Like, I love my business podcast. Don't get me wrong. Dishing Up Digital. Ellen, I love your show. But I also like listening to some silly, goofy, fun shows. Like lately, I've been listening to Best of Both Our Worlds, the Hannah Montana rewatch podcast. And that's purely for fun. And I think that's amazing. So yes, you can definitely have a podcast just for fun. It does not have to be for business purposes. How do I choose the right podcast topic or niche? This one is one that I struggle with a little bit on my own. I mean, my niche is podcasting, which is a pretty general topic. If I had to really niche down further, I'd say podcasting for beginners is my niche. But even then, I feel like sometimes I get a little too far into the weeds and people are probably going, oh gosh, what is she even talking about? She's too far down the road for me to catch up. And that's definitely an issue that I run into myself. And just picking the right podcast topic or niche is kind of a challenge. And I know I'm one of those people who is multifaceted, I will say. I have a lot of different interests and a lot of different hobbies and a lot of things that honestly, even in my business that I do, like in addition to podcasting, I'm also a DJ. I host music bingo. I run a photo booth rental company. Like there's a lot of different things that I do. So picking a niche can be very challenging, but I would say start with the thing that you are most passionate about, the thing that you are an expert on, and you can always kind of have that core thing and then have other things kind of orbit around it, like little moons to your planet. So think of your niche as your main planet, the main thing you want to focus on, and then you can always travel to a moon for another episode. And I think this will be a good one to end on. How do I know whether my podcast idea is strong enough to last? Now, I've said this time and time again, podcasting is a long game. You want to be in it for the long haul because that's when you're going to see the biggest return on everything that you do. You're more than likely not going to be an overnight podcast success. We can't all be Amy Poehler, unfortunately. As much as we all want to be Amy Poehler, we don't have a network of SNL celebrities to tap into to create some viral content right off the rip. So how do you know if your idea is strong enough to last? Is this something that you can talk to a friend about for hours on end? Is this something that you could get on stage and talk about for hours on end? Is this something you care deeply about growing and nurturing and learning more about? Because honestly, you're not going to know everything about a topic when you start a podcast because things always change and more information comes out, more discoveries come out. Even in my own show, podcasting changes. Like I just got the email, this will date when I recorded this episode, but I just got the email that Spotify is adding AI tools to its search ability for podcasts. You can talk to it like ChatGPT now. So things are always going to change and grow, and I'd say you would know your podcast is strong enough to last if you are willing to put in the work to keep researching and keep learning and keep growing and just keep talking about it. Keep being willing to sit down behind a microphone in front of a camera and just yap about your favorite topics. So just some things to keep in mind. Those are some FAQs for getting started with podcasting. If you would like more of these style episodes, please let me know in the comments below. And I will catch you next week for another episode of Abbey the Podcast Lady.